The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community. Coming up on today's show, a Bronx artist documentary project that sheds light on the Bronx creative community. Also, we'll find out about free services that are being offered to the Bronx community for tax preparation, as well as for victims of domestic violence. And then it's America's Money Answers man, who will be with us in studio, telling us how to get out of debt and and recover unclaimed money. And after that, we'll sit down with Clark Pena to discuss Mayor Bill de Blasio making his first contractual deal. And finally, the legal series A to Z is back in the Legal Corner with David Lesh. So stay tuned, because all this and much more is heading your way, because right now we're officially open. Hello everyone, I'm your host Darren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, February 26, 2014. Of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us. You can find out about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Well, we kick things off with our Legal Corner, and in today's edition of Legal Corner, we continue with our law series A through Z. We're up to the letter Q, as in quitclaim deeds. What exactly are they? Well, we'll welcome back attorney, legal correspondent David Lesh. You step away for a minute, you come back, you want to give us the hard letter.
You know, it's been a month, maybe longer, since I've been here. The Q was a very difficult letter to come up with a legal topic.
Were you able to come up with
a couple of hours to actually go through all my research and everything, but quitclaim deeds, not quick. Quit, Q-U-I-T, as in you're quitting your claim to property. Quitclaim deeds. And it gives me a chance to talk a little about deeds in general and real estate transactions. Basically, most people think once they sign a contract for real property that it's pretty much all over. But it's not all over until you get your deed to the property. And when you're talking about a deed, it's a transfer of property, a transfer of real property from a grantor to a grantee, and the deed has your basic information about the property itself. It describes the property in metes and bounds. It'll have the name of the grantor. The grantor actually has to sign it. It has to be notarized, and then that deed itself is actually recorded in the registry in the office, which is in the Bronx County Courthouse. So it's there. It's registered for everybody to see who owns this particular property. Fine. Sounds good. Well, there are many different types of deeds. Most people just think of the most common deed, which is the warranty deed. That's the type of deed where you don't necessarily know the buyer, and you just go through your usual transaction, and you want to make sure that the buyer you don't know the buyer, you don't know the seller. You want to make sure that the seller has clear title to whatever he's selling you, so you want a warranty deed. And basically what that means is the seller, the grantor, is warranting that the property itself is free and clear of any encumbrances, any liens, mortgages, any kind of debts that are on the property. So you get what's called a warranty deed. I'll give you an example of something that's in the warranty deed itself. Let's say the grantor warrants that the grantee is the lawful owner of the property at the time the deed is made and delivered. Okay, so he's warranting. I'm giving you a warranty. Just like if you go to a store and you get a warranty. The good thing about a warranty deed is you actually get title insurance to make sure that what you're getting is truly free of encumbrances. It's title insurance, right? And you pay for the title insurance, and you get it. That's usually the buyer who gets title insurance to make sure what they're getting is free and clear.
It's actually free and clear.
Fine, we got warranty deeds done. What we're discussing today is called quitclaim claim deeds. Not quit, as you're quitting.
Q-U-I-T.
You're quitting your claim. And basically what you're saying is, I'm not making a warranty that I own this property, that I'm giving you this real estate property. But whatever I do own, whatever my interest is, I'm giving it to you. All right, that's what I'm doing for you.
Right.
And you're like, well, I don't understand. Why do that as opposed to a warranty deed? Well, sometimes, for instance, you may not even know what you own or you don't own. Let's say you're selling, I would be selling you property upstate, let's say, and had a house, had a barn. I know that belongs to me, but the lake right on the outside the property, the land underneath the lake, which I'm not quite sure, is it mine? Is it the town's? Who's it belong to? I don't really know. But I'm going to give you a quit claim deed saying that area right there, I'm going to deed over to you. I don't know if I own it.
Right.
But if I do own it, whatever my interest is,
it's yours.
It's yours. Another reason that we have these quit claim deeds is property many times is transferred through families. Let's say a spouse. You want to put your spouse on the deed. Right, so you say, I'm going to give you a quit claim deed. Your spouse, I think, should hope that you own the property that you're giving her or you're giving him. So you just quit claim. You quit your half of it that you own, and you give it to your wife or you give it to your husband. That would be an example of a quit claim deed there. Very, very simple. A parent wants to give it to a child. Instead of going through the contract and the closing and the title, you don't need to do that. It's a quick way to do it. It's a quick way. So the parent will say, I am giving you my interest, son, daughter, I'm going to quit claiming it to you. Now you're getting divorced, right? So you want to make sure you got to, per the divorce decree, you got to give your property over to your spouse. You're not going to sell it, but you're going to make sure she or he has it. Again, a quit claim deed. I'm going to give you my interest in that property. That interest is going right to you. Now here's the problem with the quit claim deeds. You don't know what you're getting many times because that person is just saying, well, if I own it, it's yours. Sometimes individuals go into these agreements with people that they don't necessarily know very well, and they go into a quit claim deed, and only later on will they find out, well, he never really owned the property or she didn't really own it. They can be extremely dangerous. So you got to make sure that if you're going to get a quit claim deed, that the person who's getting you the property seems to be legitimate, or at the very least you understand and you've done your research as to who else may have a claim to it. Let's say it's a tax lien maybe on it or something else. So if you're getting a quit claim deed, you're not getting a guarantee.
That it's yours.
A warranty that it's yours, and that's very important. Now, a quick discussion on deeds in general that can be defective, which can be a problem. Deeds have to be very specific as to who the grantor is and who the grantee is. Many times, as you know, certainly, people take it in certain names and they change their names later on, a maiden name to a married name, and then later on they want to transfer the property or sell it. Well, that's a problem because the name is not the same. So sometimes you have to change the deed or do something to correct the deed itself. Sometimes the description of the property is not accurate. You say that you're giving over, a particular area that you don't really own, right? That's a problem. You got to make sure that the survey, when the survey is done of your property, it's accurate in meets and bounds, so you know exactly that the barn belongs to you and doesn't belong half of it to your neighbor. These are very, very important. Must be signed by the grantor and notarized. Okay? The grantee doesn't have to sign it because he's getting it or she's getting it. It's the grantor has to be signed and notarized, and that's very important. Many people don't think. They think I'm going to deed it over to you.
Right, but I think on one side you have a lot of people who just say, because I'm taking or acquiring this piece, that not a lot is required here. But from what you're saying here, that there's a lot of steps that should be taken, and even though it might look good on the initial I'm granting this to you, there's a whole lot of other things that we need to pay attention to.
So that's correct. Well, look, listen, if it's just from spouse to spouse or from parent to child, you probably don't have to worry so much. But it's when you're dealing with someone you don't really know, and they're saying, I'm just going to give you a quit claim deed. It's quit deed. Give me, $250,000, I'll give you a quit claim deed. Well, they're not making a warranty to you that they actually own that property. There may be some kind of encumbrance or mortgage or something on the property, so it can be dangerous. Now, there are other types of deeds, don't get me wrong. Besides the warranty deed and the quit claim deed, for instance, there's a fiduciary deed. Those are deeds where somebody's taking over the property for a little while. I'm a fiduciary on many properties because I'm selling property on behalf of the courthouse, for judges. In other words, I will sell the property at the courthouse in foreclosure, right? Well, until that property is out of foreclosure, and until somebody buys it at the auction, well, it belongs to me. Really, I'm kind of making sure that the property stays in somebody's hands. There may even be a receiver who's managing the property, collecting the rents and doing the different things until it's in foreclosure. Once I sell the property at the courthouse, and if there's a foreclosure sale, and everybody bids on it, and the money's taken in, and there's a closing, I give a fiduciary deed. But of course, I don't warrant it myself. Right. I don't really know. It's on behalf of the bank. Right. So the bank will make sure that they'll give the warranty, and hopefully whoever is buying it at the courthouse does a title insurance search, or buys title insurance and does a search, and makes sure that the property is free and clear of encumbrances. Or sometimes they even know they're taking it, and there's a mortgage on the property.
Right.
So that's an issue of a fiduciary deed. There are trust deeds where you can actually create a trust with respect to a deed, and then you say after a certain amount of years, the property comes back to the individual, because let's say he's not a child anymore. Like we see this all the time. Somebody who has a lot of money, they want to leave their property to their child, but their child's like 10 years old. So they create a deed in trust, okay? And the trustee now owns the property, right? Until the child is 18 or 21, whatever, and then it gets reversed back to the child, to the rightful owner. So you can have these types of deeds. They're very important that you understand what you're dealing with when you're dealing with deeds. And I think a lot of people think, well, once there's a contract, I know I own the property. It's the deed. And the deed is not a contract. The deed is not a contract. The contract is I promise to give to you. That's not what this is, and that's different.
David Lesh giving us quick claim deeds. You never knew about it before. You know about it now.
You know about it now, and no more cues. I'm finished with you.
You're finished. Good to see you. You got to come back soon.
See you in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, we got to take a quick break, but when we return, financial expert Jordan Goodman will be here giving us a couple of money managing tips. Now, you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. We're coming right back in a few seconds.
If you want hot topics, current news, fashion advice, and humor included, then Open 2.0 is a show for you. We've got it all. So tune in every Friday at 4:30 p.m.
Barry, time is running out. According to my calculations, 1 in 5 kids in America struggles with hunger. How can so many children face hunger when there's more than enough food to feed them all? You're right, Barry. We can help solve hunger by teaming up with Feeding America to get food to hungry kids in communities across the country.
Help Flint and the Feeding America network of food banks get food to the people who need it in your community. Find your local Feeding America food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
Together, we're Feeding America.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Well, our next guest joins us on set to talk about how you can prepare for your financial future, also how to keep up to date on all the latest financial news. We welcome now America's Money Answers man and author of Master Your Debt, Jordan Goodman, who's here. And
Good to
see you. Good to see you. All is well. We are now getting out of the month of February, soon to be in the month of March, but yet and still, it seems as though we're having a lot of fallout from the Christmas season.
The bills are still coming in.
Bills are still coming in. Credit cards. Give us a little bit of an assessment here, because American credit card debt continues to rise.
That's right. The latest numbers for December came in up a total of credit card debt of up $18 billion in that month alone. Now,
$18 billion.
$18 billion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's more than just normal holiday spending. I think some of it's people feeling confident in buying things, but I think some of it is people's incomes are not going up as fast as their expenses. Mm-hmm. Their incomes are pretty much the same, but their expenses for taxes, food, health care, tuitions, you name it, are going up, and they're making up the difference with debt. So it's very, very expensive. If you're paying 25% on your credit cards, this is kind of painful. Right. So here's some specific things you can do. First of all, if you have decent credit, you can get lower interest credit cards. There's a free website, creditcardperks.com. You can go and get all the best deals out there. It might be frequent flyer miles, you might lower interest rates, could be secured cards if you've had credit issues in the past. Whatever it is, get the best credit card out there, and there's a free place to get it. I'm going to be giving lots of websites here, so be ready for that. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, if you have a lot of credit card debt at high rates, and the banks aren't willing to work with you or lower those rates from 25%, go to a non-profit credit counseling place. They will consolidate it all into one payment at a lower interest rate, typically like 6-7%.
Wow.
You make one payment to them, they get you out of debt in a way you can't possibly do on your own. My favorite place there is called Cambridge Credit Counseling. Their website, cambridgecredit.org. They're a nonprofit group, help loads of people, and I've mentioned them in the past. I know lots of your viewers have actually taken advantage of that.
So when you look at the credit card debt and you see that your numbers are rising, there are some options. So people think sometimes I'm really out of the box, my numbers are rising, I can't get a good handle on these things, but there are ways to really bring it under control. Now, do you recommend, because you did recommend, I should say, credit counseling services.
Right.
When should a person really engage themselves in a credit counseling?
Well, when you can't do it on your own, basically. I mean, if you're paying 25%, you can't get 6% on your own. Mm-hmm. You could call the banks all day and say, I can't afford it. They have no sympathy whatsoever. But dealing with a nonprofit credit counseling place like this CambridgeCredit.org, they have deals with Chase and Citibank and Wells Fargo to get you deals you can't get on your own. So that's what makes sense to do it. Mm-hmm. If you can do it on your own, fine. But most people in that circumstance are kind of up against it. And they need the discipline and the concessions they get that you can't get on your own.
I was listening to the President of the United States talk about this not too long ago. I was in the audience with him in Syracuse. He told me about how, or told us, I should say, about how he didn't get a student loans paid to almost 40 years old.
That's right.
And it seems as though Americans right now are on that path too, because
big time.
Student loan debt continues to even...
We're up to about $1.2 trillion in student loan debt right now. And every year it goes up at a faster and faster pace because people are not saving enough for college. When they get to college, they have to borrow more. Of course, the tuitions are going up. And in many cases, state aid is going down, so people have to make up the difference with student loans. I think it's even a bigger problem than credit card debt to some extent, because you're right, it's 30-year student loans that people are taking on these days. So it's really a big burden. A lot of people are not able to buy a car, buy a home, kind of create a family on their own because they're so burdened by student loan debt. Right. So two things you can do. You can do a student loan consolidation, where if you have a bunch of different student loans at different interest rates, combine them into one at the lowest possible interest rate and potentially get out of it. A website to help you there would be consolidatecollege.com, and they specialize in this. There's a specialized program called the IBD program, the interest program. Basically what it allows you to do is if you pay for 10 years straight and you work for some kind of a nonprofit or governmental group, then you can actually have the last 20 years completely forgiven.
Wow. And many people don't know about that, and they need to take advantage.
Right.
I had somebody ask this question coming on the way in, was that if you have student loan, maybe you defaulted before, maybe you've gotten back on track, is there a way will they always still tack that interest on? Is there a way to negotiate back down to the principal?
You can settle your student loans. There's a website for that, studentloanhelptoday.com, that actually can help you settle your student loans. But it's not easy. If you have private loans, they tend not to forgive you at all. The federal ones, they can consolidate, but it never goes away. Even in bankruptcy, you cannot get rid of student loans. Even in death, you can't get rid of student loans.
Yeah.
It follows you forever. You know, they really make it tough on it. The two debts you can't get rid of are student loans and IRS, or that kind of debt. So it's a real problem for a lot of people.
While things are looking better on some ends, things are also looking better on the other. For American homeowners now, the opportunity to actually get a mortgage.
And refinance.
And do some refinancing. Good time right now.
It has gotten better. Interest rates actually have fallen since the beginning of the year. People thought they were going to rise, but they've actually fallen. The reason that happened was all of these troubles around the world, Ukraine, Argentina, Turkey. When those things happen, people get out of there and they put money into the U.S., push our interest rates down. So, for example, at the beginning of the year, the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage was maybe about 5%. Now it's down to about 4.3%. So it's better than it was before. So if your current mortgage is, I would say, 4.5% or higher, take a look and see if refinancing might make sense for you. A website to help you there would be youcanrefi.com, youcanrefi.com. Now, if you can do a 15-year, that's even better. 15 years, about 3.1%.
Wow.
Your payments are going to be higher, but if you can pay it off in 15 instead of 30 years, that's a good thing. Another strategy to use to take advantage of the current low interest rates is so-called mortgage equity optimization. And there's a website for that as well, truthinequity.com. And what that allows you to do is you have a home equity line of credit, a HELOC as they call it. You keep your income in the HELOC. Every day you push your principal down a little bit, and you make much faster progress in paying off your mortgage. So literally, you can pay off a 30-year mortgage in about 5 or 6 years using that HELOC.
And many people don't take advantage of that at all.
They don't have a clue about that. Banks don't tell you about it. You could use a credit union in many cases. See, that HELOC is tied to the short-term interest rate, which today is about 3%. So your interest rate's lower, and using that technique, you're making progress in your principal. With a traditional 30-year mortgage, you're paying almost all interest for the first 10 to 15 years.
Right.
So paying off your mortgage in 5 years instead of 30 years is a good deal.
Americans are now beginning to get a little leery. Tax time is upon us, especially for those people who may owe in state and federal.
Right.
There's some new tax laws, and we also know that they're ramping things up because the government needs money.
Oh yeah.
Give us a little bit of an update here what we're seeing.
Well, you're right. Here we're in tax season now, and a lot of people are behind on their taxes, either this year or past years. If you try to hide from the IRS or the state tax agencies, it only gets worse, okay? This is not a place you want to hide from. If you see a letter from them, it's like, open the thing. It might not be good news, but don't run from it, okay? So there are programs which these state agencies and the IRS don't tell you about, but do exist. One of them is called, for example, offer in compromise. And what that means is they'll settle your past tax debt for 30, 40 cents on the dollar. It's a whole procedure to go through, but if you do it, you don't have to pay the full tax amount if you can show hardship in various ways. There's a website that can help people go through that whole process, which is IRSandStateTaxHelp.com. And they go through the whole process. If you know what you're doing, they can do it. The IRS is going to help you go through this thing, but a lot of people, particularly if they have seasonal or kind of up years and down years, like say a real estate agent, had a great year last year, they owe a lot of taxes, and this year they're having a horrible year, and they don't have the money to pay the taxes from last year. A case like that, the IRS might understand. So don't run from the IRS or New York State tax agencies. Cooperate with them. That's, again, a website to help them. IRSandStateTaxHelp.com.
So usually people think that when I'm dealing with the IRS, they're very hard, they're very strict, they take it to the furthest end. I'm going to jail, but the reality is that there are some steps that you could actually take to get there, and they're very much interested in negotiating, and as much as not.
They would rather get something than nothing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the estimates are something between $200 and $300 billion a year is not collected by the IRS. So they would, if they have you, they'd rather work with you negotiating maybe a payment plan. There's a lot of different things they can do. But you're right. They think you're going to be so hard and go to jail. They don't want you to go to jail. They want you working, paying them.
You can't get any money in jail. I wish people understand you can't get any money in jail. So listen, if you're out there right now and you have a situation where you need some extra dollars, well, guess what? There's a possibility that there might be some extra dollars out there for you. And those extra dollars might be out there for you because you've already earned them. Somebody's left them for you. There's some free money out there. And so I want to make sure that Jordan gets a chance to talk about this, because for Americans out there, there's billions of dollars.
Billions and billions. These are what are called unclaimed funds. So what happens is when you move from one place to another, in many cases, you don't give the address of your new place, to your old place. There's a lot of money. Bank accounts, life insurance policies, 401ks, real estate, just all kinds of stuff that is left behind. Now, legally the way it works is the state has to try to find you. They have what's called the Department of Unclaimed Funds. Every state has one of these. The New York State one has billions and billions of dollars every year, and they try to find you by putting legal notices in newspapers in tiny type that nobody ever sees.
Yeah, you need you can't even see those with readers.
That's the way they supposedly try to find you. After 5 years, if they can't find you, they take the money. Okay, so that's the way it works, and usually they take the money. Now, there is a website, free website, missingmoney.com, which you can go on to, and you'd be amazed what you find. Now, put in your name with your middle initial, put in all your former addresses, put in all these different, and you never know what's going to show up. It's, oh yeah, I did have a 401k at that old company I forgot about, and they can lead you to that. So that's one way, missingmoney.com. And just one more quick one, with life insurance, a lot of people don't realize they can sell their life insurance policies instead of just let them lapse if the premiums become too much, and that can be hundreds of thousands of dollars in kind of free money for you. A website for that would be fundinglife.com. Say you had a policy with some cash value, you can sell it much cheaper, you get much more money than actually letting it lapse to the insurance company.
All right. Jordan Goodman, America's Money Answers Man, and tell us how people get the book.
My book is called Master Your Debt. My website is moneyanswers.com. I've actually just revamped it, all kinds of websites and links and videos in there to help people with every aspect. I'm always glad to take emails from your viewers as well.
Thank you very much, Jordan Goodman, here with us. All righty. Well, guess what? We got to take a break, but coming up after the break, we're going to find out about free tax services. You talk about you're having trouble paying those taxes or getting those tax things ready. Well, guess what? There are free tax services to help you, as well as to help those that are victims of domestic violence. We'll explain right after this.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
Well, we're back here on Open. We encourage you to stay connected to us at Open at BronxNet Television. You can always check us out on our Facebook page, as well as check us out on the website, www.bronxnet.org. Well, Chief of Staff Greg Faulkner from the Office of Councilman Fernando Cabrera is now on the phone with us. He's going to tell us about a free tax preparation service and a free legal clinic for victims of domestic violence right here in our borough. We want to welcome Greg to the show right now. And Greg, good to have you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Good. So as we were talking with our Money Answers guy, we were finding out that this is tax season, and for you and the councilman, it's an opportunity for Bronxites to take advantage of really getting some free tax help to be able to even prepare your taxes.
That's correct. For the last couple of years, the councilman is sponsored, along with the Food Bank of New York and the City University of New York, we sponsored a free tax preparation, and so we're happy to do that again this year. It's a very popular event. We generally, have a very full turnout from folks in the neighborhood, and so we're excited that we're going to kick that off again this year, this coming Saturday.
Well, let me ask this question here, because when you talk about people taking advantage of this, you said you have a full house. Do you find that many people are really trying to take advantage of these tax services?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're effective at getting the word out, people, there are a lot of groups that we have found have been taking advantage of folks and really either charging them exorbitant amounts to provide the tax services. So we found that it's a real need, and so we have found that people do take advantage. We get phone calls in our office. People, since we've been doing this now for the last couple of years, people anticipate when this is coming and have called us and want to know details. Are we doing it again this year? And I think the best testament is, when the councilman actually comes out and meets with folks and spends time with folks during that day, and the response we get that people really appreciate being able to get the tax counseling and being able to get refunds, because I think last year we led in terms of the number of refunds we were able to get for folks. I think the dollar amount was one of the highest in the city. And that's a real benefit for people who are of moderate income.
Well, I want to say to our viewers who are watching, we talked about this free tax help, and we didn't actually give you the date yet. So it's Saturday, March the 1st, beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, 10 o'clock in the morning, from 10 to 4. And you have the opportunity to go down to the Bronx Works Senior Center at 80 East 181st Street, and there people will be able to get that tax preparation assistance. Once again, it is Bronx Works Morris Senior Center, 80 East 181st Street, Bronx, New York 10453. And so that will happen. And so there's a clinic now that happens with the councilman every Friday. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're going to be kicking it off this well. It's the last Friday of every month. We're going to be holding a domestic violence legal clinic. We'll have an attorney who will be available to provide assistance and counseling to folks who have either may be experiencing or may want some support in terms of being in a domestic violence situation.
The question about domestic violence is, it's a private matter for many people. They don't really feel the need to want to speak out. Are you finding that people really want to have this conversation? Because some people like to leave this matter behind closed doors.
Yeah, it's all completely done in confidence. The councilman started looking at the stats and the numbers, and it really suggested that we needed to provide some resources. I know from our constituent services standpoint, we would have folks coming into our office talking about being victims of domestic violence and really wanting to get the kind of legal support that would help them either have the strength to move out of the situation or to find out what their options are.
So when you talk about this clinic and you talk about opening your doors, talk about what can actually happen. You've got attorneys there, you've got counselors there. Who else is in attendance?
Well, there'll be attorneys. There'll be an attorney, and it's again around counseling. So they will advise folks. They'll make an assessment, and they will advise folks who may need assistance with order of protection. It'll talk to folks who may need assistance with custody questions. We get a lot of questions around child custody. So it'll offer sort of an umbrella of services, and I suspect we'll do a lot of referrals for support.
And so let's give people the information one more time. If you have any questions about domestic violence, could be the victim, or you've got some things that you really want to just get some counsel on, the first Friday or the last Friday of each month, you have the opportunity to go over to Councilman Cabrera's office and get some information. So let's give that address and information out there.
Yeah, our office is located at 107 East Burnside Avenue. That's the Bronx, and our phone number is 347-590-2876.
And so this is a collaboration between the councilman and the Urban Justice Center, as both groups will be coming together to actually help. As we found out, the review committee actually found that family-related homicides increased by 60% in the Bronx from 2002 to 2012, while 17% of the city's population resides in the Bronx. 25% of the family-related homicides actually occurred there, and so those are some startling numbers.
Councilman, when he began to really engage in this issue, was really shocked by these numbers, and it really suggested that we needed to do something to begin to address these concerns. So, the councilman is very committed to finding ways that we can offer some kind of solution. And one of the ways is to provide counseling. Here is a resource that's available, and if you feel you're in this kind of situation, there are resources that we can link you to that can be of assistance for you.
All righty. Well, Greg, thank you so much for sharing with us. Greg Faulkner, Chief of Staff for the Office of Councilman Fernando Cabrera. We want to thank you so much for joining us here on Open, and certainly we hope that people will take advantage of the information. We're going to throw it out one more time so that way you have the opportunity to actually see. Now, if you want some free help in regards to tax preparation, we want to let you know, come on out Saturday, March the 1st. You're going going from 10 to 4 p.m. From 10 to 4 p.m., all you got to do is come on out to Bronx Works Morris Senior Center. That's 80 East 181st Street, Bronx, New York, 10543, and you can get that information there. Also, if you want that legal clinic, that's at the Councilman's Office, 107 East Burnside Avenue in the Bronx. You can have the opportunity to meet and talk about issues with regards to domestic violence. If you need the phone number that you can call to the Councilman's Office, the number 347-590-2874. Repeating that number one more time, 347-590-2874. Greg, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Greg, and let me ask this one last question, because somebody might say this. If about this tax preparation thing, who's eligible? Anybody eligible?
Well, there are income guidelines. So if you are in a family, you have dependents, the income cutoff is $52,000 a year. If you are a single adult, it's $20,000.
All right. Thanks a lot, Greg. Take care now.
Thank you.
All righty. When we return, we're going to sit down with Law Enforcement Employees Benevolent Association Advisor Clark Pena. He'll be here with us. We'll be right back in just a second.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
And welcome back. Darren Jaime here with you. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio's administration settled its first labor contract, a quick deal, with 200 environmental officers. Here to tell us what this means for the labor relations and the union since the Bloomberg era is Law Enforcement Employees Benevolent Association Advisor Clark Pena. And Clark, good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So this seems to be a hallmark of a deal, because when you look at the fact that under the Bloomberg administration, no contract was able to be reached, no deal was able to be made, but yet and still the de Blasio administration in just a couple of months comes in and is able to reach an agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection Police. Give us this about.
It was amazing. You know, we've been going back and forth, first with the Bloomberg administration for approximately 8 years. The officers in the Department of Environmental Police officers and the Law Enforcement Employees Benevolent Association has gone from court to arbitration to now sitting down one day with the new commissioner, Robert Lynn, and bringing up a deal that was great for everyone.
One day?
One day.
So you've had an administration previous, the Bloomberg administration, no deal able to come to. One day a deal is done. What happened?
I think it's the understanding. We have, thanks to our Mayor de Blasio, appointing Commissioner Robert Lynn, who understands law enforcement. He's from the Koch era. He's done some work with the Police Benevolent Association during that period of time. So he has a clear understanding of what law enforcement officers do and what they should be getting. So he was very courteous, very understanding. The administration is very creative, and our members are very happy.
When you talk about the DEP, many people are not so familiar with the DEP. We do see them drive around. They've got the little green vehicles, and, and they're certified police officers as well. And at the same time, while they're certified police officers, they're police officers that have worked without a contract, I understand, for the last 9 years.
That is correct. That is correct. Going back and forth to arbitration. As a matter of fact, we have a board member, Sergeant Adriani, who passed away waiting for this contract. He passed away not too long ago due to cancer. So we dedicate this to him. He worked hard for it, and we finally got it. DP police officers protect our drinking water. They do a very important job.
And let me do this. Let me take a quick break because we got a little technical difficulty. We're going to come back with Clark so we get this technical difficulty rectified, and then we'll be right back right after this. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
and 6.
So I think we have these technical difficulties taken care of. We're going to continue our conversation with Clark Pena. So Clark, when we left, we were talking a little bit about DP officers. We see them. Many people may not be so familiar with what exactly their roles and their responsibilities are.
Well, they protect our drinking water. So every time you have a drink of water from your faucet, you can thank a DP officer for keeping that water safe. We're dealing in a post 9/11 era where you have people who can come and try to commit some type of terroristic attack on our drinking water. Absolutely. And that would affect the whole city. So it's a very important job. They're full-fledged police officers, carry firearms. They have an ESU unit. They have an aviation unit. They have boats. So they're a full-fledged police unit organization. And thanks to this administration, they're being respected as such.
Now, since 9/11, they've doubled in the amount of officers that they've had?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there are 200 officers now. There's a class going in very shortly. They're giving a test very soon also for the job. Now with this new contract, I think a lot of people are going to want the job. Mm-hmm. So we expect the union to also grow as the job and the members continue to grow in size.
Can you give us a little bit of insight into retro pay, because we know that was one of the major issues, and a lot of the police unions, or I should say city unions, are really having this issue about retro pay and whether or not they're actually going to be able to get it. It does create a problem for Mayor de Blasio, but looking at what happened in this first contract, what can we look forward to seeing?
Well, no, I know it doesn't set the pattern, but it definitely sets the tone. These members, it's a special circumstance. They've been waiting for close to 9 years for a contract. Second of all, there's only 200 of them. Retroactive pay of $50,000 to $53,000 a piece, broken down in 3 lump sums. It's not a big hit for the city compared to the 150 unions that are out there with thousands and thousands of members. So I understand that the mayor even said that. This is not the pattern, but it definitely creates a tone of a mutual respect where we can disagree without being disagreeable.
When you look at the deal, one of the deals calls for raises of 5% for 2005, 4% in both 2006 and 2007, on par to increases given with the city police in those years. And so I guess the thought is that DEP officers definitely want to be equated, just like any other police officer.
Absolutely, and let's understand that in July we have to go back to the table to negotiate up to the present time. But in that period of time, we're going to be reaching out to the city council under the leadership of Melissa Mark Riverito, which is doing an outstanding job as speaker, to try to get a home rule message so we could go up to Albany to say, look, these guys wear uniforms similar to NYPD, they carry firearms similar to NYPD, and they do the job as good or better than NYPD. So we should have parity with the partner agency and the New York City Police Department.
What do you think this does for officers who now have the opportunity to have this contract, given the fact that a lot of people were really nervous about Mayor Bill de Blasio taking office, saying that he might not be so friendly towards law enforcement? What do you think this does for both law enforcement as well as the de Blasio administration?
Well, as far as the de Blasio administration, they've shown how creative they can be. And once again, you can come to the table and disagree but not be disagreeable. I'll give you a quick story. We were at City Hall just this past Thursday, and in prior times we would have Mayor Bloomberg come in, walk right by us. But this Thursday, Mayor de Blasio stopped, shook the officers' hands, and thanked them each for the job that they do. That's different, and we appreciate that.
So, of course, you'll come back and give us updates as to how things progress. I know you got a couple more meetings coming up.
Look forward to it. City Council, we're going to definitely be reaching out to Albany to try to get this home rule message and continue to serve the men and women that serve us.
How optimistic are you going up to Albany that the message is going to be heard?
We're going to be heard. We will be heard.
All right. Clark Petty, that's why we bring you here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Before we go to break, we want to give you some reaction. Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. gave his annual State of the Borough address, which took place last Thursday at Hostos Community College. We're going to go down to our cameras that were there and file this report.
I'm so glad to be here to hear Borough President Diaz unveil his vision for the next phase of development in the Bronx. But we know that this is virgin territory for development, for housing, for economic development projects that we need, for job creation, for the artist community being welcomed into the Bronx, to grow the middle class in New York City. And it is, in my estimation, still the best located borough in the region and the best kept secret in New York.
We've seen the beginnings of the new Bronx. We've accomplished so much already. I think the Bronx Borough President has been tremendous in not just setting a real vision for the borough, but getting us to where we see concrete steps being taken. The deal over the Kingsbridge Armory to bring the National Ice Center, bringing new jobs to the borough, bringing green development. I mean, so much has already been underway.
Businesses are doing well, but other businesses are moving into the Bronx. They understand that this is the place to come. And so we've done a lot in order to encourage people, A, to stay, and B, to come and look at us with new light.
He's very optimistic. He's very excited about what we see happening here. Our crime rates are down to the lowest. Our housing is burgeoning. Jobs are coming back to the Bronx, and we have just a great future ahead of us.
We want to be able to train Bronxites for the jobs that are out there, and we need updated facilities to do that. So we're delighted that we get to honor and host our dear Borough President, and we can also state our case and showcase the college and let everybody know that this is a community college.
And what I'm very excited about is that we have a Borough President, Ruben Diaz, who's very committed to the economic revitalization of the borough. You know, this borough is really extraordinary. We have so many different people of different backgrounds who live here, and yet we've got to tie it into economic prosperity for everybody. And I think Ruben's track record as a leader and thinking about the bigger picture, thinking about how the Bronx can become a rising borough that meets the challenges of the people and the aspirations of the city, I think make this address very important today.
The Bronx has been transforming for the better. I see a lot of new initiatives coming in, whether it's from the green movement to just differences in our education system, the differences in our communities. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of change and a lot of transformation coming aboard.
What Ruben showed us today is the reason why we're all such fans of him. We're fans of the Bronx because we're fans of him. In the last couple of years, what he's done is he's made sure that we revive the Bronx. There's a lot of people that can say negative things about us, but every year it gets less and less, and I think a lot of it has to do with the work that he's done.
The borough president clearly outlined the amazing things that have been taking place in the Bronx in the past several years under his leadership, and things like the new stations for Metro North and the East Bronx are just among many things that are taking place that is making the Bronx more attractive, that's really bringing the Bronx up to new heights.
The new Bronx, it's a new swag, a new spirit, a new mindset, a new psyche and psychology that's coming from both the people who live here and the people who don't live here and have moved away or are taking a new look at us. It means that we're safer. You know, again, we have law-abiding citizens here. It means that we're the borough of restaurants and lounges, and we have a great nightlife, that we have a beautiful parkland, that we have a wonderful infrastructure, that we are a borough where the Macy's of the world want to do business here. We're a borough of sports venues, whether it's a tennis facility in the Carolee's Tennis Center, or the Kingsbridge National Ice Center, or the Donald Trump Golf Course, and maybe even a soccer stadium. That we're home of the Yankees, that we're home of the best, where we have a paradigm of green development nationwide. So when you look at Villa Verde and Bronxchester, they're setting the tone for green development nationwide. So it's just a new day, and we want people to re-examine us. We want people to revisit us. We want people to explore the Bronx or re-explore the Bronx if you haven't been here in quite some time. But psychologically speaking, Bronxites are feeling so much better about where they live.
And if you want to catch the borough president's actual State of the Borough address, we ask that you tune in to BronxNet Television, and you'll be able to find the borough's, I should say the State of the Borough's full address by Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. So stay tuned, look at some listings, and you'll be able to catch it. Well, right now we're turning our focus to art. The Bronx Artist Documentary Project is partnering Bronx photographers, Bronx artists, resulting in documentation of a wide variety of visual artists that work in the Bronx today. Now here to tell us more about the project is Director of the Bronx Artist Documentary Project, Daniel Halbin, Project Coordinator, Judy Lane, and Bronx photographer, Adi Talwar. We thank you all for coming and sharing with us.
Thanks for having us.
I got it all right, right?
Oh, man.
I'm doing all right. So far, so good.
So good.
Well, good. Give us a little bit about this. This is an awesome project, and it's a collaborative effort.
Sure is.
It's a very collaborative effort, and you said it very well. We're matching up Bronx photographers with Bronx-based visual artists. The photographers will be documenting the artists as they create work in their studios here in the Bronx. So it's about the art that's being produced in the Bronx today at this time when the Bronx is changing rapidly, as we all know. And the idea was that you can see paintings in galleries, museums, but you don't really know what went into the creation of that work. The artist isn't necessarily present when you see that work. So this is the chance to see how the work is created, where it's created, who is doing it, a little glimpse into the secret process behind the closed door of the studio.
And Daniel here has some work that's being shown right now, and so this is an opportunity to really take a look at your work.
Yeah, well, I brought this painting because it was while making this that I had the idea for the Bronx Artist Documentary Project. I was visiting the studio of fellow artist Janine Alfieri, and had asked if I could come and paint her while she's doing her thing. And then, as I'm painting and working on this in this like traditional loft looking space, live work space, I realized, this is really fascinating, that artists have to be creative not only in the work they produce, but in finding space that inspires them within the urban setting. And we all know space is at such a premium. And
hard to find.
Where do you find it? And the range of situations that artists work in is just vast. So we were talking about this. I realized, well, I'm not going to ask every artist I know if I can come and spend 4 days painting in their studio. How can we make this happen? And so we came up with the idea of reaching out to some of the many extraordinary photographers that we have here in the Bronx, and we're collaborating with Michael Camber of the Bronx Documentary Center, and he has taken ownership also of this project and has reached out to the wonderful community of photographers to send them far and wide, and that's what's going on right now.
And Adi, you're a photographer here in the Bronx,
yes.
And you're also capturing these pictures as well. What are you hoping that people are able to see through the lens of you and other photographers?
Exactly what Daniel said, that the creative process that's the end result of the creative process, but there's a lot that goes in to get there. And the journey is the more interesting thing. And that's what we are hoping to achieve as photographers, and it's to document that process and to bring a part of that.
And when you talk about that process, it's a very powerful process. I mean, people see us here on television, they see us here right now. There's a whole lot that goes into.
They have a clue, right?
They have no clue. You guys have a clue because you've been here for a while to actually be able to see. So when you're able to put this together and this project together, as we said, it's a collaborative effort. Give us a little bit about where it's going and who do you want to be a part of it?
Well, it's heading towards the month of September of this year, when there will be a big show at the Andrew Friedman home of all the the documentation of the artists in their studios. Right now we have 30 photographers, we have 70 artists, that equals 100 creative individuals who are coming together to make this project happen, and that's in celebration of the centennial of Bronx County. So there will be the exhibition at the Andrew Friedman Home. There will be some events. There will be some artist, photographer, panel discussions, special school group, senior center tours of the exhibition, and a very exciting day called Garden of Artists, where the artists, like Danny, will be outside in front of the Andrew Friedman Home creating their work. Ideally, the photographers will be there too, documenting the process, and the public will be able to walk in amongst the artists and see the work being created before their eyes and just feel enriched that there's so much art here in the Bronx.
And I was going to ask that, because is that kind of like the impetus that you want to let people know that there's a lot of art and there's a lot of artistic talent, and at the same time also a respect for the craft, because as you guys know, as you said, you pointed out, without people really know, it took about 4 days for you just to get this done.
Oh yeah. We are at a moment when those of us who have been here through the decades, I'm born and raised here in the Bronx, who went through many, decades with very little momentum and very little opportunity to get exposure or to connect with other people in our field. Now, things are changing. There's a momentum in the Bronx, and we hope not only in sharing this with the public that the public has a greater recognition and sense of all these wonderfully creative people who are lurking around, but also we're helping through the project to cultivate that community of artists, the interaction. And that's what's happened, that's what's taking place now, when photographers and artists who maybe never even knew of each other's existence are traversing, and that's what this map is showing that Judy created, where all of these dark dots are the photographers and where they're placed around the Bronx. And then these red, I don't know if it's easy to see, but the little red squares are the 70 artists and where they are. And if we had little threads, we can put, we can connect the dots, and you can see, how that this is taking place. And it's very exciting. First, it gave us an opportunity to research and find out who's out there, and then, putting it together. So I feel like our project is a gift to the borough, to the community, and we're, seeking support in every way possible to have a catalog. And
what's that feel like, Adi, to know that you've got this, you look out there and you see the blue dots and the red dots. You know there's that many photographers out there, like, wow, it's not just,
Yeah, no, it's great to see this, and as artists, you tend to live in your own little universe, and then you show work. But when you go to another person's, I'm going to talk about my experience. So I went to Daniel's studio to document him working. He's a master 3 times over, 30 years plus of experience. Me, I get to see a master working. And that's a whole other level of experience. And I'm getting to share that space with him, and I'm making photographs. I'm 6 inches away from his face with my camera. Right. If the camera hadn't been there, he'd be wondering what's going on, right? But you get to experience the other person's experience and document it really up close, and you learn from that. And when we see the map, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, we got to see a little bit of it. Before we get out of here, we got to get out of here, but let me ask about the catalog. There's a catalog that's on tap.
Well, this is just a mock-up catalog. Right. This is what we hope to come out of this project with. We don't want the show to end after September's over and have the project go away. Okay. Our dream is that we have a catalog that will live on as a historical document for the borough, and we're raising money for this. Okay. So we're raising it from the ground up, so whatever we can do to make this happen. Be a blessing.
Best wishes. You got to come back and share with us, and great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much for coming to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much now.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, guess what? We've had a full show, and unfortunately, we're just about out of time. Been a pleasure coming into your homes today. We want to thank our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of the show, or you want to see it again and again and again, there's a recablecast tonight at 10 p.m. Cablevision's Channel 67, Verizon Fios. You can check us out on Channel 33. Any other time, the World Wide Web, www.bronxnet.org/open. Check out the Wednesday show. Darren Hyman here. We're encouraging you to have a great week. Don't forget, keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel.